Hi guys, welcome back. We are back with the Silva Mind Control Method and we are on chapter 12, practicing ESP. So, is ESP real? Today, virtually all informed people agree that it is. It has been proved to the last decimal point of probability statistics that information is available to us through something other than the five senses. It can be information from the past, the present, or the future. It can be from a point nearby or far away. Neither time nor space, no Faraday cages are a barrier to whatever extrasensory facility is at work in ESP. ESP stands for extrasensory perception. I do not like this terminology. Extrasensory means outside, apart from our sensory apparatus. This seems to deny the existence of a sensory apparatus other than the five senses, though obviously one exists since we do sense information without the use of them. There's nothing extrasensory at all about ESP. The word perception is fine for the sort of experiments conducted by J.B. Rhine at Duke University, where recipients guess the turn of special cards accurately enough to virtually rule out chance. However, in mind control, we do not simply perceive, we actually project our awareness to where the desired information is. Perception is too passive a word for what we do. Therefore, in mind control, we speak of effective sensory projection. The initials are the same, and appropriately so, since we mean all that is generally understood by ESP and more. To experience ESP, mind control students go through no card guessing exercise. These aim at finding out if people are psychic. We already know they are, and we therefore set ourselves a larger task to train them to perform psychically with real life tasks. And so, in ways so exciting that they experience a sort of spiritual high, so exquisitely intense that their lives are never quite the same again. This comes at the end of about 40 hours of instruction and exercises. We routinely and reliably train people to function psychically. We have done so for over 500,000 graduates. By the time you have mastered all the techniques so far in this book, you will be well on your way to practicing ESP. You will be able to enter deep levels of mind and remain fully conscious, and you will be able to visualize things and events almost with the fullness of the five senses reality. These are the two gateways to the psychic world. In mind control classes, students are close to operating psychically by the end of the second day. And on the third day, they actually do operate psychically to project their awareness outside of their bodies. They begin with a simple exercise in visual imagination. In very deep meditation, they project themselves in front of their own homes by imagining they are there. They carefully note everything they see before they enter by the front door to stand in their living room facing the south wall. They see this room at night with the lights on, then in the daytime with the sunlight coming through the windows, and study every detail they can remember. Then they touch the south wall and enter it. This may sound outlandish to you, but it is perfectly natural to those who have gone through intensive training in visualization. Inside the wall, they are where they have never been before, so they test their new environment by noting the light, the odors, the temperature, and by knocking on the inside of the wall, the solidity of the materials. Outside the wall again and facing it, they change its color to black, red, green, blue, and violet, then return it to its original color. Next, they hold up a chair, weightless in this dimension, and study it against the wall as they change its color again. They do this with a watermelon, a lemon, an orange, 3 bananas, 3 carrots, and a head of lettuce. When this session is completed, the first important step has been taken to put the logical mind in the back seat and the imaginative mind up front where the controls are. And the kind of exercises I'm describing now, the logical mind tells the student, no, don't tell me you're inside a wall or some other outlandish place. You know that can't be. You're sitting here. But The imaginative mind, now strengthened by a series of visualization exercises, is able to ignore this. As the imagination grows even stronger, so do our psychic powers. It is the imaginative mind which holds them. During the next sessions, the students mentally project themselves into cubes or cylinders of metal, stainless steel, copper, brass, and lead, where, as they did inside the wall, they test for light, odor, color, temperature, and solidity, all at a pace rapid enough to keep logic out of the way. Working their way up from the simple to the more complex arrangements of matter, they begin their projection into living matter with a fruit tree. They examine a fruit tree in all four seasons against a sequence of colors on their mental screens, and then they project into the leaves and the fruit. Now, for a giant step forward, projection into a pet. The students have been so successful up to this point that can I really do this is a question that crosses very few minds. They confidently examine a pet from the outside against their mental screens. With the colors changing, then, just as confidently, they enter into the skull and living brain. After a few minutes of reconnaissance inside the pet's head, they emerge once again to examine him from the outside, this time focusing on the chest. Now, inside the chest to examine the rib cage, the spine, the heart, the lungs, the liver, then out again. Now armed with points of reference for what will probably be the most dumbfounding day of their lives, the fourth day, when they will work with humans. However, there is preparatory work to be done beforehand. And an especially deep level of meditation, sometimes well into theta, mind control students in their now well trained imaginations construct laboratories of whatever size, shape, and color they are comfortable with. These will include a desk, a chair of their own design, a clock, a calendar containing all dates, past, present, and future, plus filing cabinets. Nothing unusual so far. To understand the next step, it is necessary to point out again how far our psychic sensing apparatus is from the language and logic. How close is it to images and symbols? I point this out because the next step is to equip the laboratory with instruments for psychically correcting abnormalities detected in the humans who will be examined the following day. Most of these instruments are like nothing you have seen in any laboratory. They are highly instrumental symbols, symbolic instruments, if you will. Imagine a fine sieve for filtering impurities from blood, a delicate brush to sweep away the white powder, calcium, that can be seen psychically in cases of arthritis, lotions for fast healing, baths for washing away guilt, a hi-fi set with special music for calming the distress. Every student makes up his own hmm, armamentarium. No two sets of tools are exactly alike. They come from where all is possible, from deep levels of mind, and many graduates come to realize that they work they do within them has consequences in what we call the objective world. As the student works with the tools, he may have need of some wise counsel to help in perplexing moments, an inner still small voice. For the mind control students, though, it is not a small voice but a strong one, and not one but two. In his laboratory, he evokes two counselors, a man and a woman. He is told before he begins this meditative session that he will do this, and if he is like most other students, he will have a pretty firm idea of whom he wants as counselors. Rarely does he get his wish. Almost never is he disappointed. One stoop, hoping to meet Albert Einstein, found instead a small man in clown's paint with a rose-colored ping-pong ball for a nose and wearing a cap with a pinwheel. The little man turned out to be a reliable source of practical advice. Another student, Sam Merrill, who wrote an article about mind control in the New Times in May 2nd, 1975, evoked two very real people as counselors, though their behavior was far removed from their real selves. In his laboratory, the submarine Nautilus, writes Merrill, a little man in knickers and a silk shirt emerged from the decompressed chamber. He was slim, balding, gentle, doe-like eyes set in deep sockets. My counselor was William Shakespeare. I said hi, but he didn't answer. A disembodied voice announced that we are going ashore, and Will and I leapt from the thatchway onto a deserted beach. On the beach, we met my second counselor, Sophia Lorraine. She had just returned from a swim, and her cotton t-shirt clung lusciously to the goodies beneath. She too ignored me at first, but was overjoyed to meet Shakespeare. The two shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, then fell to the sand, began thrashing, throbbing, grunting, and squealing. The next day, when it was time for the serious business of working cases, Mr. Merrill's orientologist gave him the name of a 62-year-old woman in Florida. The two counselors, more interested in each other than the woman, playfully examined her and left to attend more pressing matters. Had the counselors left without giving counsel? No. The woman's abdomen had disappeared. In its place, wrote Merrill, was a length of pink neon intestine that flashed angrily. He learned from his orientologist that the woman was in the hospital with a serious inflamed intestine, diverculitis. Counselors can be very real to mind control graduates. What are they? What are not sure? We're not sure. Perhaps some figment of an archetypal imagination, perhaps an embodiment of the inner voice, perhaps something more. What we do know is that once we meet our counselors and learn to work with them, the association is respectful and priceless. More than 4 centuries before Christ, the Greek philosopher Socrates had a counselor who, unlike our counselors in mind control, limited his advice to warnings. According to Plato, Socrates said, I have since my childhood been attended by a semi divine being whose voice from time to time dissuades me from some undertaking, but never directs me what I am to do. Another, right, another writer, Xenophon, quotes Socrates as saying, up to now, the voice has never been wrong. As you will see, a mind control graduate, mentally in his laboratory, confidently consulting his counselors, is a person with an immense power to benefit himself and others. At this point in mind control training, this is understood but not yet experienced. The next day, the air almost trembles with expectation. Even our graduates who come back to us from a refresher feel it. So far, everything the student has experienced has been apparent only to him in the privacy of his own mind. Now comes the moment for performing so that everyone can see. There are two mental exercises beforehand, both mental examinations of the body of a friend, pretty much as we've done earlier with the pets, but this time in a more functional detail. With this completed, the students pair off. One member of each pair is called the psycho-orientologist, and the other, the psychic operator. The psycho-orientologist is derived from psycho-orientology, a word I coined to describe everything we do in mind control. It simply means orientating the mind. Psycho-orientologist writes on a card the name of the person he knows, his age, his general whereabouts, and the description of some major physical affliction. The psychic operator, sometimes with the help of his psycho-orientologist, goes to his level, probably for the first and last time, with a shaky confidence in what he is about to do. When he signals that he is ready at his level in his laboratory in the presence of his counselor, the psycho-orientologist tells him the name, age, sex, and location of the person whose name is on the card. The psychic operator's job is to find out what is wrong with this person he has never met and never heard of until this moment. He examines this person's body inside and out in the orderly way his imagination has been trained to do, consulting with his counselors when necessary, perhaps speaking to the person himself. The psychic operator is urged by his psycho-orientologist to report findings as he goes along, to keep talking even if you feel you're guessing. Typically, a session would sound like this. This is following based on a real case. The psycho-orientologist, the name of the person I have listed here, is John Summers. He is 48 years old. He lives in Elkhart, Indiana. 1, 2, 3. John Summers of Elkhart, Indiana is now on your screen. Sense it, feel it, visualize it, imagine it, create it. Know he is there. Take it for granted he is there. Scan the body with your intelligence from where you know the head to be and where you know the feet are. Up and down, up and down, up and down. 1 second. While scanning the body in this manner, allow your imagination to select 3 areas of great attraction. Okay, maintain the rate of scanning at once a second and mention to me the areas of attraction as they come to you. You will feel as though you're making it up, so tell me everything that enters your mind. The psychic operator. He carries his right shoulder a little lower, a little forward. Everything else seems okay except maybe his left ankle. Let's look inside the chest. Everything's warm, a little cooler on the right, cooler and darker. His right lung is gone. Now to that ankle. Seems okay, just a little jagged white line there. Hurts in damp weather, must have broken it sometime. I guess that's all. Wait, my female counselor is turning the guy around for me, pointing to the spot behind his ears. Yes, terribly deep scar there. He had a mastoid operation, very deep. Okay, that's all. Psychoorientologist. Very good. He is missing his right lung, and there's a deep scar behind one ear. I have no information about the ankle. Now review the feelings you had when you told me about the right lung and the scar behind the ear. Review your feeling and use this as a point of reference next time you work a case. After a moment's pause, the psychic returns to Beta, smiling. Wow, that's crazy. Yes, it is crazy. It violates everything we have experienced in this sane world. However, there is nothing unusual about this scene I've just described. Some miss a little on their first case, some miss altogether on the first, second, even third case. But as the day draws to an end, virtually everyone has scored enough direct hits to know it is not just a coincidence. Something very real is at work here. Too often we think of imagination as a responsibility creator of nonsense, and often it is, but works of art are the products of a trained imagination. Psychic results are also the product of imagination, trained in a very special way. Okay. The mind control student, when he functions psychically for the first time, feels that he is just imagining what he sees. This is why the psychoorientologist tells him to keep talking, even if you feel you are just guessing. If he were to stop talking, his logical mind might tempt him to start reasoning things out, stifling his psychic powers, just as he does in his everyday life. After his first direct hit, the mind control student knows he is not just imagining. He is imagining and learning to trust the first thing that comes to mind. This is his psychic gift coming through. What is at work are perfectly natural laws. Our minds are not confined to our heads. They reach out. To reach out effectively, they must be motivated by desire and fueled by belief and sparked by expectancy. On his first case, the average student does not have high expectancy. He is, at an all informed and open minded, he knows perfectly well there is such a thing as ESP. But his entire life's training has proved to him that ESP is someone else's ability, not his. Once he learns differently, once he scores his first hit, his expectancy leaps and he is on his way. A few hours later, with 8 or 9 other good cases under his belt, he will be a mind control graduate. Time and again, I saw students correctly diagnosing the illness, wrote Bill Starr of Midnight in his article, Mind Control Classes Can Improve Your Mental Power, November 19th, 1973. In it, he described a case he had once presented that he had thought would prove especially difficult to diagnose. Neither he nor anyone else in the class knew what the illness was. Earlier that day, a Mr. Thomas, a mind control graduate, had visited his son in the hospital. There was another patient in the room. Thomas learned nothing about him except his name. Here is what the psychic found. The right leg was sort of paralyzed. The arms and shoulders were stiff, and some vertebrae in the back were fused because of disease. In addition, the man had a sore throat and his intestines were inflamed. He was 5.5 feet tall and weighed 105 pounds. Back at the hospital, Mr. Thomas learned that the patient had been a victim of polio in childhood. He had fallen from a wheelchair and broken his right hip, and everything else the mind control student said was correct, except for the sore throat and inflamed intestines. Those were his son's symptoms. Often what appear to be misses turn out like this one, to be hits on the wrong target. With practice, the aim improves. With more practice, the psychic can connect with things as well as people. Dick Manza, an actor-singer in New York, supplements his income by typing book manuscripts for writers and publishers. One day he had lost the manuscript and frankly called a mind control graduate to help him find it. He had at last, he said, when he entered a small church auditorium to rehearse a play. A group of young morticians were leaving. They were there for graduation exercises. The manuscript was in a white envelope with Dick's name and address and the word "Rush" written on it. The mind control graduate has one of his counselors, an elderly, mute woman whose usefulness is limited to yes and no nods and a sort of sign language. The male counselor helps out as an interpreter and occasionally pitches in with his own advice. The graduate visualized the manuscript as Dick described it. He saw it in the middle of a stack of papers on a large, untidy desk. "Is the manuscript safe there?" he asked this woman counselor. She nodded yes. "Does one of the new morticians have it?" "No." "Is the desk in the church?" "No." "Will it be returned soon?" "Yes." "Who has it?" She pointed at the graduate himself. "I have it," he asked. No, the male counselor came to the rescue. "She means someone about your age has it." She asked the young woman to take his papers back to his office because he was going out to celebrate with students. "It's on his desk. Don't worry, when he sees it, he'll send it along to Dick." 2 days later, the dean of the mortician school telephoned Dick. After the graduation, he explained he had picked up a stack of papers that somehow included the manuscript and asked his secretary to put them on his desk because he was going out to have a few drinks with the new graduates. It has occurred to me that any one of our casework, we are dealing with nothing more than thought transference. Nothing more. How sophisticated some folks are. The case I use as an example, the one with the man with the missing lung, is a real one. You'll recall there was one apparent miss, the broken ankle. The Orientologist could confirm he had written them down beforehand, the mastoid operation and the missing lung, but all he could say about the broken ankle was, "I have no information about that." Later, the person whose case was being worked confirmed that in fact he had broken his ankle years before and that it causes him some discomfort in damp weather. Thought transference. Not as we normally understand the term, the thought was not in the mind of the Orientologist, for he knew nothing about that. Nor was it likely to be in the mind of the case at that moment. But you may object, it might have been in his mind. Yes, it just might have been. Another case, a student doing casework reported that a woman had a scar on her elbow from a fracture. The Orientologist had no information about it and checked with the woman, who said no, she had never injured her elbow. Then a few days later, the woman mentioned it to her mother. She had, it turned out, broken her elbow when she was 3 years old. Is this thought transference? The psychic energy which people send out is strongest when their survival is at stake. This is why so many cases of spontaneous ESP involve accidents and sudden death. It is for this reason that our final exercise is casework with severely ill people. The graduate who conscientiously practices casework learns to pick up weaker and weaker psychic signals until one day he is able psychically to connect with anyone he has in mind, whether or not that person is in trouble. With practice, we become more and more sensitive. In my early experiments, I learned that children demonstrate psychic ability more readily than adults do. They are far less limited by beta's view of what is possible, and their sense of reality has not developed to the point where they will say only those things that seem logical. One experiment, just as the basis of mind control courses were developed, was designed to work at the structure of the case working sessions I have described. As you will see, my earlier technique was quite different from what it is today. Two children, Jimmy and Timmy, have been trained in the basics. I separate them, putting each in a different room, each with an experimenter, a sort of forerunner of today's psychic orientologist. One child, Jimmy, was asked to go to his level and create something, anything, in his imagination. Meanwhile, Timmy in the other room went to his level and was asked to find out what Jimmy was up to. Jimmy said to his experimenter, "I'm making a little truck. It has a green body and red wheels." Timmy's experimenter asked, "What is Jimmy doing now?" "Oh, he's making a little toy truck." "Well, describe it." "Oh, it has a green body and red wheels." This is a casework at a more subtle level than we conduct with adults in our classes. It takes practice to become as little children. And that's the end of chapter 12. I hope you enjoyed that long one. I'll see you back here for chapter 13. Form your own practice group.